Hasbro's Galactic Heroes line of toys actually started out in 2002 under the Playskool brand, and even continues today in a greatly modified form. But the figures we're going to be talking about today are mostly from what I would consider the brand's heyday from 2004 to 2009 or so. This also coincides with the period in time that my son was at the right age to enjoy this kind of figure, and I have a lot of good memories of the two of us playing with them together, so that probably accounts for a lot of my affection for these figures. But I also just think they're really charming. They're in a kind of cartoony style. They're made of a sort of rubbery plastic and generally have little or no articulation, although Luke here can turn his wrist. And the thing that really attracts them to me, and I think to a lot of adult collectors, was that you could get a lot of very obscure characters in this line as well. So we have here the Imperial Snitch Garindon, or even the Cantina Barkeeper Wooher. And the ability to have these kind of very obscure characters was really appealing to a lot of Star Wars collectors. They could both play with them with their kids and satisfy the obsessive Star Wars collector inside of them. So anyway, that's my theory. So that's probably why we have so many of these in our collection. In fact, we have quite a few more than you can see here, more vehicles and figures. But today we're going to be talking about the Jabba-related ones, which I purposely left out of the little selection I have here. So let's go ahead and do that. A lot of these figures were originally sold in 2-packs like these, but today we're going to be mostly focusing on the cinema scenes sets, which included a number of figures from a particular part of one of the movies. These sets came in distinctive half-circle shaped packaging that included some fairly elaborate cardboard scenery, which you could save and use as a sort of playset later on. I ended up buying 2 of each of these Jabba-related ones, and I have one to keep in the package and one to open and have the figures loose. Obviously, I don't want to be opening the sealed examples that I have here, so I'm going to have to show you the scenery through the plastic, but I think you can get the idea. If you look closely at the packaging, you can see that not only does the cardboard have the appropriate textures and designs and things to represent the walls and so forth, but it also has multiple layers in the design. So we've got the throne in front of a archway that has another layer in the back. I really do think they did a great job with this packaging. They weren't kidding when they said that you could use it as a playset, although over the years, of course, it being made out of cardboard, it will fall apart eventually. One other thing I like about these is the character portraits that they have on the back. I think they're pretty cool. Well done artwork, although Luke looks a little weird there. And they also have a little blurb on each one telling about the scene that the set is made to represent. These retailed for around $20 at the time, and when you consider how much a single action figure costs these days, that seems like quite a bargain. So let's go ahead and get my loose examples out, and we'll see what they look like a little bit closer up. So as you can see, this set came with 9 figures, and it shouldn't come as much of a surprise to you when I say that my favorite is Jabba here. He is exceedingly cute. I like anything that makes Jabba look cute, but these eyes here and just the overall look of the figure really appeal to me. And they even have nice paintwork with lots of different colors that they've blended nicely together. And even the articulation is really good for a Galactic Heroes figure. This figure debuted with this set, although it was included in a number of other sets, as we'll see in a little bit. Bib Fortuna was exclusive to this set, and he comes with a gigantic gun, which is not unusual for these Galactic Heroes figures. He also has the staff that was included with the vintage Kenner figure. Let's see, C-3PO here is not unique to this set, although I think this green on him is unique to him from having been slapped by Jabba there. It's a nice figure, nicely chromed as well, which is something that you can't say for a lot of modern figures of C-3PO. Here we have Lando in his Skiff guard outfit, and one interesting thing about him is that his helmet is removable. That was something that happened with some of these figures, but it was not super common. It's a nice touch, though, even though it means that you have to be careful not to lose it. The Gamorrean guard was not unique to this set, but it is a nicely done figure, nicely painted, and no articulation whatsoever, but it does have a nice heft to it, and, just a good figure overall. Here we have Han, fresh out of the carbonite block with the blaster there. He does have articulation in the one arm for whatever reason. Here we have Leia in her bounty hunter disguise, carrying a thermal detonator and whatever this is, a force pike. And her helmet is removable like Lando's. I like the face they've chosen for her here. Next we have Jedi Luke, and although there have been a few other Jedi Luke figures in the Galactic Heroes line, this one, as you may be able to tell, is unique to the Jabba's Palace setup. It's got the blaster there, and his cloak was unique to Jabba's Palace as well. His articulation allows him to shoot sideways, which is of course the coolest way to shoot. This next one was just referred to as Skiff Guard on the packaging, but it is of course Nikto. It doesn't have any articulation at all, but looks nicely sculpted and painted. It's a little weird to have the Skiff Guard in the palace scene, but they already had this figure pre-made, so I think they just included him because of that. By the way, many years ago I made a throne for our Galactic Heroes Jabba setup, and it's not great, but I thought it came out okay, and it may have actually been the first throne that I've ever made, so in that sense I'm kind of fond of it. You can put him on top there. I didn't bother making a hookah pipe or railing or anything like that. One more note about this Jabba figure, I actually have a prototype version of the figure that's cast in a different color plastic. It's sort of a brownish color as opposed to the green that the actual production figure would have been cast in. It's otherwise identical, I think, but still, it's kind of interesting to look at. Next up, we have the Jabba's Sail Barge cinema scene, which was a Toys R Us exclusive, at least for a time. Several of these were released originally as exclusives to one store or other and then had wider release later on. Now, of course, we don't get an actual sail barge in this set, but we do get cardboard representations of part of the sail barge deck here, with several figures from the sail barge, and a cardboard skiff, which I think is pretty well done if you look at it closely. And we also have here in front of them the Sarlacc itself with some tentacles crawling up there to attack the skiff. On the side we have the usual portraits of the figures. Love that Jabba. And a blurb about Jabba's sail barge and the entire scene it's describing. And of course the other figures. Luke's face still looks really small to me for some reason, but moving right along, let's take a look at the loose figures, shall we? And here we have the figures roughly arranged as they were in the packaging, and I think definitely the star of this set for me is Max Rebo. He comes with his keyboard, which we'll take a look at in just a second, but he also has a surprising amount of articulation for one of these figures. His arms move up and down, and his head can move to side. And, you know, he doesn't really look that different from a regular action figure version of Max Rebo, since the regular version is so cute to begin with. Interestingly, this is the most accurate version of the Red Ball Jet keyboard that Hasbro, I think, has ever made. The regular size action figure ones do not include that sort of horn portion on the left side. So this is more accurate and really quite well done. We also have Droopy McCool, and he is articulated at the shoulders, although I can't seem to get him to hold his instrument up to his mouth and keep it there, so it's not really worth a whole heck of a lot. Still, better than nothing, I suppose. I don't know why they didn't make a size Snoodles for this set, and they never made one in the Galactic Heroes line either, which is a real shame. This is, of course, the same Jabba as in the previous set, so I'm not going to go into it very much, but it's a great figure. And we have, finally, the Slave Leia version of Leia, and they've chosen to give her a weapon, rather bendy weapon in my case, but a weapon nonetheless. And it's definitely good to have her in this outfit, even though having her hold the weapon doesn't really work if you're going to pose her in front of Jabba, but still nice to have. That Leia figure is not unique to this set. It had been released in 2-packs in the past, and the same can be said for this drink-serving R2-D2 here. It's a cool version, though. This tray actually can, I think, come out if you pull hard enough, but it's in there pretty well. You can, however, move the drink-serving arm around, so that's kind of interesting. A little bit of posability there. Boba Fett over here has the proper coloration for a Jabba's sail barge version, so he's got the red gauntlets and sort of blue and yellow and red jetpack, and he's definitely a well-done figure. Finally, Jedi Luke is not unique to this set, and in fact, if he was going to be a sail barge version, He shouldn't be wearing the glove on his hand there because that came later, but I guess we can overlook that. Otherwise, nice to have. I guess the next one is not technically a cinema scene, it's a vehicle. This one is called Jabba's Skiff, the Pit of Carcoon, and it comes with a skiff vehicle and 4 figures. And I really like how they've handled the packaging here. They've got cardboard tentacles coming out of the Sarlacc's mouth, and if you look on the front there with the Galactic Heroes logo, it's even got tentacles wrapped around that, which is pretty cool. On the side, we have the usual character portraits. Han looks a little annoyed there somehow, but I suppose I would be too in this situation. We have another Skiff card, Boba Fett, small face Luke Skywalker, and the Skiff. Let's take a look at them. I think the vehicles in the Galactic Heroes line were actually some of my favorite things. They're very kind of chunky and stylized looking, but they're also a lot of fun. So we get the same Luke Skywalker and Boba Fett figures that we got from the previous set, so we'll just set those aside. We also have Han carrying one of these weapons here that he uses to dangle into the Sarlacc pit and try and get Lando out, so that's kind of cool. And this is one of the only times that having the wrist articulation on one of these figures actually seems to make some sense. And finally, we have the Skiff Guard figure, which is, of course, a Weequay figure. Doesn't have any articulation, but it looks quite good. But of course, the star of the show is the Skiff itself. And I like how kind of almost egg-shaped it is. It's very cute. It's got a moving control panel here, which allows you to fit a guy there behind it. It has a retractable gangplank, which I think is kind of a must-have for any kind of skiff. And finally, it has retractable landing gear as well, so you can have it be floating around if you prefer. And it actually has a little bit in terms of paint and weathering, although it's kind of subtle. I think it's a really nice vehicle. This next one is the last of the classic Galactic Hero sets, as I would call them, but it's not the last set we're going to be looking at. This is the Rancor Pit set, and it was, of course, a Toys R Us exclusive, and I recall this one being a little bit more hard to get compared to the other ones. It comes with 3 figures and the Rancor itself, and I will say that inside it's not quite as impressive in terms of the cardboard scenery. It's really just a background. We've got 2 mirrored Gamorrean guards, Luke with the tiny face, oops, and of course the Rancor, which is why this is so top-heavy. I really like this Rancor art that they've done here. I could just make a poster of that. So let's take a quick look at the figures themselves. Now there are some issues with this set, mostly with the Luke figure here. This is just the same Luke figure that they had from the previous set and also for some 2-packs. It has a lightsaber, even though Luke didn't have his lightsaber when he was fighting the Rancor. It seems kind of silly to include that, but, you know, I guess they had one already made and didn't want to make a new figure. The Gamorrean guards are, of course, identical, and they're identical to the ones from the previous set and also that have been released in 2-packs in the past. So the only real draw for this set is the Rancor itself, but that is quite a draw, I think. This is a huge figure, and I mean, I can understand it being a little bit polarizing in terms of the style, but I quite like it. He has a gigantic mouth that would allow him to eat, or at least partially chomp down on, a Gamorrean guard. I don't think you can get the Gamorrean all the way in there, unfortunately, but you could try. But if you have a normal humanoid-sized figure, you can easily fit them in there. And the cool thing about it is that his tail opens up, allowing you to have him poop them out later on. I really like that. He also comes with a bone, which is removable, and you can use that to reenact the scene where Luke sort of traps the bone in the Rancor's jaws. And he also has some nice details like this manacle there and his earring. The earring is a key detail that you should look for whenever you see any kind of a Rancor statue or figure. They should always pretty much have that. So all the sets that I've been talking about up until now have been from 2008, 2009, that kind of era. This one is from 2013, during a period of about a year when they tried to rebrand the Galactic Heroes line as Jedi Force in the Play School Heroes line. And this is when they redesigned their humanoid figures to have a lot more articulation and just sort of look maybe a little bit more grown up than the Galactic Heroes figures did. The packaging on this is not too bad. They've got a throne and an archway and everything, although in the back there you can see that grating and weird scroll work. Looks almost like something out of a cathedral rather than Jabba's palace. It seems kind of out of place. Here we have the figures on the back. Now, unfortunately, I don't know what I did with most of these figures. You can tell, I guess, that I don't really care that much about the new style of Galactic Heroes, but I do have the Jabba that I can show you out of the package and maybe do a little comparison with the original one. You can see that it's been painted with just a very flat beige on the front, and that's it, basically. There's no other coloration, no shading or anything. The eyes look fine, and the arm tattoo is a nicer red. It stands out, but aside from that, the previous version is miles better than the new one. Honestly, it's kind of sad to do this comparison because the new one is just much worse. This set, called Jabba's Bounty, was I think originally a Kohl's exclusive, although later on it was available elsewhere. In fact, I think every single figure and the vehicle itself is just a repack. If you know anything about Kohl's, they tended to like to have giant sets that looked impressive on the shelf, but tended not to have much in the way of new figures. I think my favorite thing about this set is that it looks like Han is sticking up Jabba. Now, I can't say that I'm a huge fan of these redesigned figures, although there's nothing really wrong with them. The Boba Fett in particular looks pretty cool. They have a lot more articulation, but frankly, I never found the lack of articulation to be a problem with the previous Galactic Heroes figures. It was really just a non-issue. It looks like they're trying to make these seem a little bit more grown up, which I can understand, but I prefer these original figures personally. The Gamorrean Guard is, of course, exactly the same as the old Galactic Heroes figure, although I don't think the paint is as nice on the new version, and the eyes on the new version seem a little weird, don't they? His pupils seem weirdly dilated there, but otherwise, it's fine. This Han is also in the new style, but ironically, they've just reused the Galactic Heroes Han in Carbonite, which doesn't match the style and is way too small to actually accommodate the Han figure, so it's kind of a weird choice, to be honest with you. And the Jabba in this set is more or less identical to the one from the previous set with the very flat paintwork. In fact, it's actually a little bit worse than the other one because, as you can see here on the sides, it's got some sort of chalky-looking areas where there's been overspray, and it just doesn't look very well done at all. Of course, the star of the show is kind of meant to be this vehicle, Slave One, and this is actually exactly the same as the one that they released in the original Galactic Heroes line, with the exception of some differences in the paint coloration. You can see that the new one has a more red paint on the front there. I'm not really sure which is more accurate, but in terms of the actual vehicle itself, it's the same as far as I can tell. In the bottom here is a little space where you can put Han in Carbonite, if you put it in the right direction, that is. And that's why that particular Han in Carbonite is so thin. It's a nice vehicle. Our final entry in Jabba-related Galactic Heroes sets is this Luke Skywalker and Rancor from 2017, and in fact this is still available at some places today. This one has a bit of an interesting action feature. If you push down on his head, his mouth will open and his arms will go up like this. It's a little bit of a weird one because it kind of makes him look like he's doing a chicken dance or something, and I don't know. I guess it's not bad. He does have articulated arms, which is one thing, and you can open up his mouth separately as well. Luke here actually does have the bone, so he is specific to this set, but if you can see here, they've actually changed the design of their humanoid figures to make it possible to change the sets of arms so that you can have him holding a lightsaber or the bone. That's kind of cool, although the arms are connected by a rod, so you can't move them independently of each other, which I don't really like that much. Overall, I think this is a pretty good set, but I prefer the original Rancor because it's got better play features. Being able to swallow and poop out figures will win out any day of the week in my book. Ooh, that was quite a long video there, wasn't it? One reason I took so long to make this video in the first place is because it just seemed like there were so many things that I had to cover. But these are some of my favorite figures, and I'm glad I was able to share them with you today. You may notice I've added a few figures like the Jawa and Chewbacca. There's a number of different ones that you could add to a Jabba's Palace display. Bosk would be another one. But in any case, I really like these. It's a little bit of a shame that there's nothing like them around today, but I'm glad that they made them when they did. I do wish that they had made characters like Ula, or maybe even more obscure ones like Yakface and Amanaman, but I guess I should be satisfied that we got what we did get. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.